hey, it's AG, IJ, CB still gone for a few weeks.
Hmm. Hopefully he'll be back soon. He
Yeah,
was really wanting.
yeah,
He
she
really
really,
had. He really had high praise about Usopp.
especially in these episodes, because he really does like the character. So, I have some notes from him about the episode, but um, just like general impressions of this part of the series overall,
You know,
instead of like a either way, let's get into it. So these are episodes 11 through 15. To recap, essentially what happened, um, the crew's currently at 3 people, and they went to Surf Island so that they can. So they went to Surf Island along their way, and they run into Usopp. And
who's
so,
Yasopp's son. Actually, during this episode, I really forgot he was Yasopp's son, which is a tribute, I think, more to Usopp than anything else. That Usopp really, he's his own character. I think other series would really play up the fact that he's the child of a known and wanted pirate because he's palling around with Shanks. But I really think these episodes are like a microcosm of what the series as a whole is. That the arc starts, and it's almost like the series is starting over fresh. And as the arc builds, it's the not quality because the series' storytelling is always high quality, but the enjoyment of it builds until the end, and you get to do it all over again once the new arc hits.
um, where were you? Luffy fell off a cliff,
Yeah,
and
head
he
first.
and Usopp ran off to tell
To tell
the.
the village that Kuro's awful.
Okay, so episode 11 what exposed the plot. It's basically to just recap the episode and just like yeah, they just recap the last parts of the episode. He ran around trying to tell the townsfolk, but shocker, they
Big
don't believe him.
because he tells these super aggrandized stories, and he always gets the people up in arms about pirates. Then the one time the pirates do show up, no one believes him. I think he was kind of surprised at that it would come back to bite him. But yeah, and then we get another appearance from this series, actually most underappreciated character in the whole series. There's like hundreds and hundreds of characters, and Mary is the most unappreciated one of the lot. Like this poor guy, he's just trying to make sure the house runs like tip top shape, and it doesn't really seem like there's a lot of servants to really help him.
We'll get back to Mary in a bit,
Mm-hmm.
especially in a few episodes from now. But it is kind of funny that like I can't remember if it made a reference to it, but in episode 10, it was either 10 or yeah, it was episode 9, in which Usopp basically just walks up and he just deploys a box and to just climb up. And I think in the previous attempt that we did of episode 2, I think I made a Minecraft joke, but never is it more apparent now, in which he just grabs a piece of the bush and just pulls out a straight cube of it and just sets it on the ground. I was like, okay.
Yep. And it's like, and no one has fixed it. Like no one. This is part of the reason why I think Mary is the only person who really works to make sure the house is in tip-top shape besides Kuro. But it really does seem like no one has like realized that this part of the bush is no longer part of the bush.
Mm-hmm.
And poor Mary, he probably
How
was
does it even
super
stay
tired.
alive?
It shouldn't. You're right. Unless it, no, because he completely pulls the entire brick out. It's like this big, and he just pulls the hedge out. And unless it's got like this super long branch part of it, that part of it should be dead. He's been
So
doing this for who knows how long.
so he goes up to Kaya and he's like, I need, it was like, pirates are coming, townsfolk don't believe me, we need to go, and she basically fights him off going, no, I'm not going with you anywhere, because you're acting really weird, and I used to like your lies, but not anymore.
And then he goes and he tries to kidnap her for her own safety.
Yeah.
Usopp, no.
Although
you didn't help your story at all.
And he runs off going, why doesn't anybody believe me? And it's like, Usopp, this is karma for you just continually being like a chronic liar. But
I don't
it's
think
important for him to sort of realize that he's in sort of a state in which no one trusts him. No one trusts him for a reason.
You know, they probably would have been more prone to believing him if he hadn't specifically lied about pirates coming to the island. You know, if he had never gone too seriously, I think the people would have believed him. You know, if he was just saying, oh, you know, the crops accidentally fell out of the basket again, woe is us, you know, wouldn't have been, they might have believed him about the pirates because that was the one thing he never joked about, was pirates. And now he's doing a pirate shtick? You know, at least some of us should investigate it. No. The first time we see Usopp, he actually lies about pirates coming. And then he physically sees pirates coming to the island. Thankfully, it's Luffy and not Buggy or some of the other pirates we meet in this series.
I just wanted to bring this up because I did make a note of this. Like, it feels like that there never really is a series out there, and I could be wrong. I could totally be wrong and be corrected about this. But it honestly feels like that in a series like One Piece, and in a series like most, like most shonen series where it's like, I am the protagonist, I fight people, I do good, it feels like you don't really find creepy people that happen to be good guys. Like, you will oftentimes find people that are like morally gray. I clearly don't like this guy, but he's at least on our side.
Found one.
But when I was like watching the episode, the only person I could think of, and this is a more recent example, is Yami from Black Clover, in which his entire thing is that he's this muscle-bound, creepy-looking meathead who's basically like, I will... And I was like, the first thing he does when he meets Asta is he literally tries to crush his head like a nut. And it's like... And I was like, and he could do it. It's actually making a little crackling sound as if he's actually like
as if his skull is fracturing underneath the weight.
And it's like, and he's a good guy. He's permanently a good guy because he's supposed to be that sort of person that's like, oh, I was like, I have to tell you this harsh reality. And you could sort of say Kakashi from Naruto is kind of like that too.
But he's time
more of the mysterious mentor character.
Yeah, and anytime
instead of he's outwardly creepy.
And anytime they have someone who's even hinted at being creepy, they go out of their way to make sure that it's just an act. They're not actually that creepy. Like, there's tons of series that have creepy characters, but for the most part, it's just character acting. You know, they're not actually that creepy. Like, I could name several characters that the first time you see them, they're super creepy, and then you get to know them, and why, he's so wacky! It was a joke! But they do almost never play the creep factor up for what it's supposed to be, and still have him be a central part of the story without making him a gag character with it.
So which character did you think
of? You know the occult guy from Oron Host?
Not really. Oh, you're talking about are you talking about the first light bulb guy? Or are you talking about the...
I'm talking about the guy who walks around in a shroud and a hood like the whole time.
I just don't remember that series.
He's the only thing him and Glasses Guy are the only guys I remember from that series. They were the only ones where the joke was played straight. And I love it when jokes are played as if it's just commonplace that they do this, and the comedy is in situational humor.
So I was thinking back, and I'm trying to remember, especially with this episode and another episode coming up that I'll mention. I do not remember most of this arc. I've read this arc as a manga, and I've watched it before, and I'm like, why can't I remember a lot of this arc? And then I remember something. The Four Kids dub. I could be wrong, but I thought this is what it said. That the Four Kids dub of this, even though the entire span of this arc is about 9 to 10 episodes, while the Four Kids version is about 6 to 7. And if you think about it that way, especially in a scene later coming up, it makes sense why they had to cut out about that much of the episode.
Yeah, if we were doing the Four Kids dub, we would be at the Baratier by now.
Yeah, or halfway through it, and it's like
no, we'd be at the Baratier.
There was a lot of that arc that they purposely left in because it was important for how it ends. But there were certain scenes, especially in this, in which they just removed. Like, they have, if I remember correctly, in the Four Kids version, when he grabs Kaya and pulls her out of the room, they immediately just go to the slap, and then him running off. They don't include Mary and the actual guards of the facility. Where were they the entire time? Actually, like, with guns, attempting to shoot
trying to protect Kaya because Usopp is acting like a creepy kidnapping stalker.
And then I really thought about it, but I'm like, there are certain scenes, especially with blood and guns, that they did not include specifically.
I think
for instance, I directly think that they actually removed the fact that Kaya actually shows up on that hill.
Yeah. Well, they couldn't have her there and talk about. It goes back to.
But they also had to delete like one of the best scenes of the.
One of the best shot and drawn scenes of this whole thing.
But just because it had a gun, they just could not use it. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about when they're on the hill, not in the later episode. But essentially, Usopp comes up to his crew, basically lies to him, saying, "Yeah, I was fibbing. There's no pirates.
No pirates. It's all a joke. I orchestrated the whole thing." And it's up until that part that, for me, the parts before the episode were kind of a drag. It maybe was the scene transitions, which I can't fault the series because
no, they were just elongated things of him just being chased by the...
And him just staring at, like, nothing. Oh, can we talk about the animation error of Kaya's ability to pour water to water plants
again, I didn't want to keep bringing up animation errors.
But there will be so few of them in the future. We have to milk them for all they're worth now.
Yeah, it really does feel funny that you look at these older series, like, you go back to old Dragon Ball, where it's like, if you're watching Dragon Ball, and I'm not just talking about the American dub, I'm talking about the Japanese version as well.
Like, if you
They deleted a scene from the manga. It could be only the American version. I just haven't seen it in a while. Got a reason to watch it.
Yeah.
But in it, they're talking about how they have Raditz' scouter, and Bulma has been using that to try to integrate the scanner tech into her Dragon Radar. Mm-hmm. And so she's wearing it in one of the scenes because of that. But in the English version, she's talking, and they're like, "Yeah, we should bring the guys back together, like get everyone and just like start training again." But it cuts over to her. She has the scouter on, even though she hasn't had it in the entire scene. And it's like, what? Where did you get that scouter?
Because they completely glossed over the part where she like picks it up.
No, where they actually explain like what she has it for, and it's like, what? Where did you get that?
Like, yeah. It's like, cause here's the thing.
Because sometimes
As
things
we
just
go
get
farther
removed.
along, there aren't gonna be as many animation errors. We have to milk them for all they're worth now.
Or at least that's
because
what
we
you
won't
think.
be able to. Yes, that's what I think.
Um,
I have to get my kicks somehow.
It is kind of interesting that after they kind of like hear Usopp's pleas, they just immediately jump in and go like, "Yeah, we'll help you," because we believe Luffy, and Luffy has the exact same story as you, so obviously you can't
Like
be
to
alive.
the T, in fact. Like uncorroborated stories, because Usopp ran off. He didn't hear what Luffy had described.
I had something else written, but I'm gonna wait until the end of these 5 episodes to bring it up. So we could just move over to episode 15 now, unless you had something else to say.
So we're gonna skip episodes 12, 13, 14, or
What
like
are you
what?
talking about? Going to episode 12.
You said 15.
I said 12.
Okay,
Okay.
episode 12. Yes,
Clash
we
with the
can.
Black Cat Pirates. It's,
Are
they...
you pro? Wait, is this the episode? No, it's not the episode.
Okay.
Continue.
So they basically say right at the beginning, like, hey, this town has a natural funnel. This is the straightest shot towards town. They are most likely going to use this place. And so they have everything set up. They're like, okay, we're going to put oil here. And they're basically just waiting. And then Nami goes, I think they might be landing on the other side of the island. I was like, what? No,
Yeah,
there's no other way
like,
up here.
Except for that one part.
Except for that one place where our ships are docked. Oh no.
It's like, I saw that, and I thought, there's no way that they're coming through that area. There's no way.
I'll bring it up at the end of this episode, but Nami drags Zoro down the oil slick, and she runs off, and so Zoro gets stuck on the oil. Usopp runs off. Luffy runs ahead, and so he gets lost.
Yeah,
and Usopp is the first one to make it to the hill, in which all the guys are coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And from that, at that moment, I realized, okay, they're just giving Usopp and later Nami when she shows up. They're giving them who will have less importance, who've had less importance both in the previous arc and in the next arc, in which they have less time to shine. They're giving them time now, so they can actually do some stuff.
Yeah. What I also like about this is how Luffy decides that north is where it's going to be cold, so he treks up the hill to where the actual village proper is, instead of going actually north to the north side of the island. And Zoro, being Zoro, probably took every other path. He just kept going left until he got to the shore in time.
Yeah. So Usopp is basically there, and he basically goes, hey, you could take all the treasure in that ship if you just leave the town alone. And Nami immediately comes up, clocks him over the back of the head, going, don't you dare.
It's like you could see her light flashing before her eyes in rage at anyone taking her precious, precious money. Nami.
We did kind of skip over it, but there's a scene in which Mary is cleaning the place, and
like he's trying to fix, like he's probably trying to change the old light bulbs in the chandelier and trying to dust them off.
Yeah, and he basically explains to Kuro, hey, it's like your 3rd year anniversary, so Kaya got you a special pair of glasses that are actually fitting to your head better.
Because you keep adjusting your glasses every time, so she made sure to order these glasses that would look really good on your face.
And then he breaks the glasses to show that he's really evil, and then he slashes them with his claws, which We don't see him put him on, and we don't know where he was hiding them, because he did not have his bag, which usually holds them.
Probably up his poop jacket.
Yeah, probably in his poop jacket. But, so we then get this scene in which he's walking around with the claws that are still covered in Mary's blood through
the
house,
manor that's
walks
empty.
up to Kaya, is about to stab her. Now do this later. And he just walks off. If he would have actually killed Kaya right there,
it actually would have foiled his plans.
It would have foiled his plans. But it shows how he was willing to kill her right there and then, just to get it over with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kuro. Not the most mustache twirling scene he'll be in this batch of episodes, but this episode was really good.
We're not done with it.
Oh, we're not?
Nope.
We're not? We can't be done. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, I think Usopp, in his urge to make sure none of the other pirates got up the slope, I think he completely forgot about Kuro.
I do want to say, though, that does Nami ever show the fact that she has really good hearing ever again? Like,
she does,
She's
actually.
on the other side of the island, and she goes, I think I could hear them. And I don't remember her ever bringing it up in recent comics.
She has in other arcs, though. I'm fairly certain she's used it before. She just hasn't used it in the last couple arcs because she hasn't been that prominent. She wasn't. She wasn't in Dressrosa.
Yeah. The only time that she could have possibly shown it off was during Water 7.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll see.
Well, I'm gonna bring this up because it's actually really important. Usopp starts taking out the people that are there. Nami shows up to
help
out,
sure that her stuff
and then you have Django, who, after watching this episode in which he literally does Michael Jackson poses, it's hard to take him serious at all.
Yeah.
He hypnotizes all of the people around him so they have extra strength. And I understand why 4Kids in their version in their version they claim that he had the hypnosis double fruit.
Which is not a double fruit we've seen.
It's not one that we've ever seen, and this is the only character that uses any sort of mental control or hypnosis in the entire series.
Well, we've seen mental control. Well, we'll see mental control again, but in terms of hypnosis, we don't get to see.
I think what you're thinking of may be different.
No, I'm thinking of two different instances. I'll remind you after we get done with this, because they're both spoilers for their arcs.
Was one of them in Dressrosa?
One of them was in Dressrosa, and the other one was in Thriller Bark to an extent.
I'm not sure that. Oh, I guess that one counts. Mm-hmm. I'm already too depressed.
Yeah. So.
But, okay, so I understand why they would do that. Because these guys, when they're hypnotized, they gain extra strength. And they gain extra speed, extra ferocity. So it makes sense of why they would explain how this is, because
it's the only thing
a lot of people don't really know, but a lot of times when you're under hypnosis, you will forget that you are a mortal person. You will sometimes forget. There have been times in which, so the human body will oftentimes put in mental blockers to
stop itself from killing itself.
Well, stop itself from killing itself. There have been a lot of times, well-documented times, in which people have picked up cars to move it off of people. Mm-hmm. That is in a fight-or-flight response in which
giant slabs of granite, just things that the human body, even if you try, you couldn't lift it. But in that moment, that it's life or death, and you're suddenly able to do it for a very short amount of time.
And so I understand why they want to explain how this nearly magical potential that he has is a thing, which is hilarious, because then you have Luffy, who also has the rage of being hypnotize because, of course, he does.
Because he heard. Well, he's trying to hypnotize them to make them stronger, which sounds really dumb. And Luffy, he just looks at him and he actively stares at him, and he's like, "I'm gonna become stronger with this," and he does. Like his muscles physically bulge out, which makes sense because he's.
And then when he is put to sleep to make it so he doesn't, they just go and just pop out of existence. The other thing I wanted to talk about, though, is...
I forgot where many of these episodes end and begin already.
Yeah. It is kind Wait. Did we just...
Did you do it, too?
I just skipped to the next episode. Oh, well. Luffy and Zoro are there now, and that happens.
Yeah. Sorry about that. It's just...
No, I was like, something's wrong.
Something's wrong. Something seems out of place.
Yeah.
Probably because
Episode 13, the terrifying duo. That scene where the hypnosis takes place.
And also, as far as I remember, this is the first time we're actually seeing the Gumma Gumma no Gatling gun, which is one of Luffy's really signature moves for this series.
Yeah, and we're gonna start calling out when we first see the moves, and if
start
it's come
writing
before,
them down, or else
we're
we'll
sorry,
forget.
but it's like this is the best way to keep track of all of them because he gains a lot of different techniques,
like, he
and they're
just
useful
makes
in very
them
different
too.
situations. For instance, there's a move coming up in a later episode that I definitely thought was used a lot later, like two arcs later.
Also,
sub-arcs.
the mods locked the 3 kids out.
Okay,
Kaya's castle.
So the 3 kids go to Kaya's house to try to get her, and they can't move the bush.
It could be that they're trying to move the wrong part of the bush.
Maybe.
It wouldn't surprise me. Or they could have also just put like latch ties to keep that part out of the bush from moving.
But to basically talk about this, Luffy runs past all of the guys that he takes out, grabs the front of the ship, rips it off, and is about to slam it into...
He rips the mid... I'm 80% certain that part of the ship is the maiden head of the ship.
Yeah, whatever.
Because it has that cat thing at the front.
Either way, he goes to slam it onto
Now
Django,
they can't
and Django
leave.
goes, "Go to sleep," and he goes, "Okay," and then he just falls asleep. And so
brings the whole thing down on top of him.
Now he's got a massive piece of wood over him, and these characters are left to their own devices. And this is where I wanted to talk about something. Does it feel like shonen anime and manga have this problem in which the main character is sometimes so overpowered that it's hard for
to keep them in the scene?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I was feeling that, and that's why I think I felt differently about these episodes than you did.
I want to bring this up
currently
in
the series.
Future arc, way farther, but it's because I want to bring this up. So there is a moment in which, to get the main character out of a situation, like, okay, to not spoil anything, and instead talk about a previous thing, they put Luffy in a cage. They were originally intending, probably, to leave Luffy into the cage until right up to where they were actually going to fight them. Okay? And probably what was going to happen was that Nami was going to take out one of the guys, Zoro was going to take out one of the guys, they're going to break open the cage, and he's going to take on Buggy. And it feels like, especially with Zoro and Luffy getting lost, that they only got lost on their way over there.
To get rid of Luffy.
To get rid of Luffy and Zoro, who are powerhouses.
I think
so the two weaker characters can actually have time in the spotlight.
Zoro, I think, would have been fine, because they probably would have still brought out the 2 characters he fights much earlier.
In fact, they
But
make
I think they just wanted to get rid of that. Oda had to move Luffy to
I
a
would
later
like to
part
think
of the scene.
that Oda, because he kept making characters get lost on their way to battle, they just made that Zoro's gimmick. Is that he's
It's a
just
funny gimmick, though. So it's
navigationally challenged.
It's a funny gimmick, though, so I'll forgive Zoro for it. But I agree, it seems really convenient, especially in arcs down the road, that Luffy has to be, like, hog-tied, or imprisoned somewhere, or he has to be put somewhere where he can't physically help anyone, and everybody else gets their time to shine as a result.
I mean, in the current arc, they sent him into the mirror dimension because they wanted him separated from the crew so they can have their own battles. And it honestly feels like that.
But to be fair, if it wasn't, the character he was fighting would have probably killed his crew.
Maybe. But
I would wager that.
But I would like to say, though, that it feels like that it does kind of feel like that sometimes they have to rope a character into certain situations so they won't interfere. It's why tournament arcs are really cool, because they don't have to sidestep around that, because it's like, the main character will fight eventually, but right now he has to go do something else.
And let me remind you what a breath of fresh air it is that we actually got a series that actually finished their tournament arc and announced an actual winner. And it didn't feel cheap.
One Piece, they were about to announce a winner. But, you know, it just wasn't the person who was competing that actually got the reward.
Yeah, he was like, hey, can I take it? Absolutely. Sweet, I'll be right back.
And so, I don't know, it's just, I kind of wanted to bring it up because it does kind of feel like it is a problem.
Yeah, and if anyone's watching this, I guess, kind of weigh in, like, what you think, if you think it's a problem or not. It's just, I also kind of thought it was kind of a drag, but I can see that, especially at this part, when they're trying to establish how just awesome Luffy and Zoro are, just compared to the peons that are really sent up against them, but it kind of does make Nami and Usopp look bad as a result.
Yeah.
Like, either way, Usopp and Nami are going to look especially awesome.
So,
and I really do like that they got to fight together, because they do have a really nice dynamic as characters that kind of use things to keep themselves from getting into really serious brawls unless they have to, because they can't stack up against some of the other villains. Although Usopp, as he is now, would cakewalk over Kuro in this arc.
Just Usopp.
Yeah, just Usopp. Like, on his own, like, without any help.
We'll get
take the
why
whole crew off.
This could actually be, like, an even fight now. Like, Usopp would be able to take him on, but it would be more of an even fight between them. And I'll explain why when he actually shows up to the battle, but... Okay, so... Now we have the two brothers come out. So, obviously the peons are all down and out and won't be joining the fight again.
I believe
the main characters are now here. The named characters are here, so that's where they're going to fight.
And I believe that they said their names were Siam and Butchie.
Yeah, Siam's the more fast, grappling type one, and Butchie is just the brute that just hits things really hard. Who Zoro adamantly says, I will remind you, that slam could have broken my bones. I want you to think about that. And I want you to think about everything Zoro goes through up to when they leave the East Blue. And I want you to think of this guy Bucci.
He's bad
done
news.
More damage than any of the three people that he faces.
What you got there?
But I want, it is kind of funny that it's like, oh, he could have broken my bones.
I think it's just
that
his
easy.
weight, his girth, and unbelievable power.
I would like to say, though, that it would be really funny, though, to see Bucci actually slam onto him, break, like, all of the bones in his chest and one of his arms, and still go, like, yeah, I could fight by by wrapping my foot around the blade. I can do this.
Yeah. You know what? We're jumping the gun. Obviously,
These guys are
Luffy
no match.
is going to win. You know what I would really like to see? Oh,
Against some of the earlier guys of how they are now.
oh yeah.
Because here's the thing. Luffy is only able to take these guys out because he beat them
And he has
on
range.
not just a physical level, but he also beat them on a moral and emotional level.
Mm-hmm.
And that reasoning is the reason why he sometimes will just bum rush through a group of enemies to get to the final guy. Just
Luffy's
to throw him and
morale
say,
is higher
you're
than
a bad guy. And then that's how it ends.
Well, also,
This happens in several arcs, and I will bring them up.
Yeah, as we're gonna see in the next episode, we're gonna get to
But
talk about this.
It won't be until Water 7 until we start seeing an arc in which Luffy has a actual problem facing the main guy.
Because
the main like the actual members of the crew fighting alongside him. They actually get their own fights and they get their own moments to
and
shine.
they're real fights. They're not
and
like
it just happens to culminate in Luffy finishing off the guy.
and not
Instead of just going, oh, I will help you.
Because they're not only fights, they're named fights. Their opponents have names and histories, backstories, which we get to see some of them. Like, it's a real fight. Like, I don't even want to think of the Luffy from this arc up against the bad guys from that arc. He would be cut up like mincemeat. It's not even like funny how painful that would be to watch. But anyways, so during their fight, Usopp tries to help. Zoro takes umbrage with that big time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you don't step on a man's duel. This is a man's fight here.
Nami goes to grab Zoro's swords, which were cast away from him. And she doesn't get to do anything.
Snicked, bub. She gets...
but it is a really good moment when Django looks up and you see the shadow of Kuro, and instantly...
Like, the sweat drops.
The sweat starts dripping down his brow. And it
shots
holds
like
it for
that.
just long enough for the audience to realize about the same time that Django does. Every single member of that crew is dead because they missed their mark.
Because as it appears now, he's pretty sure he's killed Mary. There is blood in the man and the manor, and they are burning daylight. Like, they can't keep this up indefinitely. But it's like the scene with Zoro tied to the post, or it's kind of because you see Django freeze, almost like he's caught something like out of the corner of his vision, and he pans up, and he like flinches, and the reflection sheens, and we see the reflection of Kuro in his glasses.
Yeah.
It's scenes like that make me love this show. It's like these scenes are perfectly choreographed.
Does it feel, though, that this episode drags a little bit, almost as if it's stalling for Kuro to show up, though?
Not as bad as the last episode, as the last two episodes were dragging. Because
it does kind of feel like that if you were to just skip over this episode and watch just the beginning of episode 14, you
wouldn't miss
everything
anything
that happens and you would not have missed anything.
No. Oh, before we...
Doesn't make it a bad episode, it just feels like it's stalling.
Cat puns.
There's a lot of cat puns.
So many inopportune, wasted cat puns. They
I can
didn't
see
make
why
any
CB
good
loves
cat
this
puns.
arc.
Like, all of these cat puns are like low tier. They didn't once use the phrase pussyfoot once. It's a missed chance.
No, they did. That's the name of Kuro's ability.
Footing with the ing. If you're going to make a cat pun, go all the way.
So, the two named characters attack Kuro because of like, hey, what have you done for our crew in these 3 years? And he uses his pussyfoot maneuver,
'Cause they're cats!
in which he starts stepping really fast, and he moves around them and then slashes at them.
Which I think really illustrates why they weren't that effective against Luffy in the first place. The Black Cat Pirates really are fighting at a moral handicap here. Whereas Luffy, Usopp, Zoro, and Nami are all fighting for the same team, they don't want this town to run with blood. And they're all kind of on the same page, despite the fact that Usopp isn't on the crew yet. We know he's going to join because he's in the outro and he's in the intro.
And then
But
they go
equals
after
here in this fight, despite the fact that Luffy and Zoro can clearly hold their own against all of these guys.
Clearly being intimidated by Kuro, the two named characters run at Zoro, and he uses the Tiger Trap move, in which it just sends them flying. Again, a move that we're saying, hey, we don't know if he's used it before, but they made it seem like this is the first time he's ever used it.
And Luffy's still unconscious. He still can't.
Nope, he's up. Nami went to get him up.
Yeah, at the beginning of next episode.
At this point, we're going to talk about Oda. He has really interesting weapon and power designs.
Yeah.
Like it's a staple. He's really good about writing these sort of things.
Yeah, and I think he really takes pride in his craft. Like, he goes out of his way to find new ways to use weapons.
So
he doesn't just use a hammer to hammer things. Like, there's this guy who clearly has like this piece of rough cut stone that he's just managed to drill a hole in, and you can kind of see like cracks in the stone where he might have messed up, and it's got like a stick, and it's just like secured on that is used to hit Usopp with.
I'm not talking about that.
Yeah, but like weapons.
I'm talking about
cool.
Kuro gets behind the two guys earlier in this scene, and he's now wearing his cat paws, and he's sitting there in a pose that's sort of like this, and all 5 sheets of the swords that are on one on each finger slide off all at once, and then he shows them off. Basically demonstrating why he always hits the glasses up with his side, because obviously he can't grab his glasses like with his fingers, because the swords would just go through his head. But he's just like going like that to like lift him up.
And also he has no dexterity with his fingertips.
Yeah, it actually explains a lot of like
the mannerisms and why he does things and why he moves certain ways. And how he can really get from one place to another very quickly, too.
Yeah.
Because you think back to that scene where Usopp's with Kaya at the manor, one of the first times we see Kuro, and we see Usopp trying to fight against him, and we realize Kuro could have diced him. Like, he could have finally diced him in that moment. And he held back. He was like, I've been with you for 3 years. I'll kill you.
So, Kuro gets then ambushed by the 3 kids.
And Kaya first, actually.
No, 3 kids first.
No, Kaya shows up first.
No, they attack him while he's on the ground.
Well, yeah.
At this scene. And is like, well, this isn't good. But Nami thankfully uses the moment of panic to basically wake Luffy up, catching. So Django this entire time had been using chakrams on a string to hypnotize people.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out he's got a lot of those, and he just starts throwing them.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. He has a power that is tied in with his weapon, and it's actually really interesting. Kuro does as well, but it's more of an aesthetic thing to him than an actual.
Mm-hmm.
It's based off of his powers, because his powers are very reminiscent on what characters later on in the series are able to do.
Yeah.
But it's just
to a lower
his
extent.
feels very unrefined, almost as if he figured this out himself.
And just has been on the fly, kind of like figuring out what he can do with it. Because we're going to get to see some crazy powers and abilities. Abilities that, to this point right now, have no easy explanation. It might as well be magic.
Mm-hmm.
But there is an explanation for it, supposedly. And it's coming, so I'm waiting for the explanation.
Apparently there is
It's
no
like
magic in the series. The only thing that's magical is the devil fruits.
But even that has a science. So, anyways, yeah. So Nami goes to wake up Luffy, realizing at the last second that her head is about to get cleaved in half by one of these chakrams. And so she basically steps on Luffy's face.
Gets him up, he catches a chakram in his mouth.
Yeah, he just bites it.
So I didn't want to go play-by-play of this entire scene.
Yeah, but I liked this scene because it's Nami doing something useful.
And
she's barely done
Nami
anything
basically looks up to him and goes, I wanted to help you out. And he goes, thanks. And at that moment I go, oh, cats! And at that moment I kind of realized, oh, this is why people still ship him to this day.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of old fans that are like, man, that could have been his romantic partner. And then you basically have Oda basically years later going, nah. Mm-hmm. Luffy is just too simple-minded to be in a relationship with anyone.
At this point, anyways, who knows, like 10, 15, 20 years from now, he may pick one of the plethora of
women that happen to like
who would jump at the chance to be with in series. There are at least 5 women who would be like, I would.
So now you have Kaya showing up. Kaya shows up. Kuro looks at her with super beashy eyes where he's like, oh, Kaya.
Oh, Kaya. Such wonderful memories and times we had together. Also, I would enjoy it even more when I killed you. And he just tosses the gun down and I'm like, Kuro's just the worst!
It also is kind of interesting that she did end up grabbing Mary's gun. I think I forgot to mention it, but
Mary's alive somehow.
Kaya did find, when she woke up in the morning, she did find Mary on the ground, and she did talk to him, so she knows what the situation is.
Mm-hmm. And she's upset. She is unhappy.
And so she goes up to him, and he says, yeah, I've been deceiving you this whole time, isn't that great? But, yeah, so she knocks the gun out of her hand, and then Usopp picks it up and shoots at him.
He doesn't just, he takes it from her. With one hand, he just, lifts it out, and he's just smiling at her.
He purposely took the glove off so he wouldn't hurt her when he took the gun from her.
Because they still need her. Because their big plan is revealed. To be stopped and foiled, of course.
But this is an important thing. Usopp shoots at him point blank. And he dodges a bullet. At point blank.
To be fair, it's basically a mini ball. But, as we'll see in the series, guns have kind of been imprecise science. They might as well be traveling at bullet speed. But still, either way, whether it was a mini ball or if it was
we're not talking about Dragon Ball Z in which they're moving so fast that 5 minutes expand into 12 episodes, you know? But
it's it's the hyperbole of the
No, they're just moving so fast that
hyperchat.
they're approaching the speed of light, and so so time is slowing down around them. Clearly, that's what it is. Instead of the animators like dragging their feet.
Yeah. So yeah, and Kuro's little evil spiel at Kaya got Luffy pissed.
And
Which
so
is
Luffy
when the gloves come off for Luffy.
Luffy reaches all the way up the hill, punches him in the face, going, "Okay, I'll take care of him. Kaya, kids, you run
fast and far as you can." Also, Usopp orders the kids to abandon him and take Kaya somewhere safe. They are to protect her, which
But this is
really
going on
cool
to episode 15, though. And I do want to say though that this episode is great.
Oh yeah,
this episode is great because it clearly and clearly in a showcase fashion shows why Kuro is a bad guy, and he's a bad guy who can actively say with a straight face, "Yeah, I did not care for you. That's just how life goes."
Mm-hmm. Like, once again, as I think I said earlier, Zurich Village really is an illustration for what you can expect from arcs as a contained unit. That at the beginning, it might drag for you, it might be a bit slow, but it's a lot like a train. It builds up speed until the end and it reaches its destination where it slows down. You get off, you get back on the train to do it all over again.
So now Kuro's mad, and he goes to attack Luffy. Oh wait, no, we forgot Bucci. And it's almost like the series does that too, where it's like, oh yeah, Bucci's over there, and he's like Dragon Ball Z powering up, and he like,
because he got hypnotized again.
Yeah, and no, he's still hypnotized, and so he attacks Zoro.
He knocked him. He got knocked out. He got hypnotized. Attacked Zoro. Zoro cut him.
He got hypnotized by Django to get a little bit of strength, so he could do that. And and then you have like all of these happening at once. You have Zoro attacking Bucci and defeating him using
stay down.
Using his unnamed cool move. I can't remember who actually has a name. Either way, there was a and then you have Nami. I'm gonna hit her with my chakrams, and Usopp uses his slingshot to hit a lead ball bearing like straight into
the
Django's spine, like knocking him out of the fight for a while.
So giving the kids a bit more time to put some distance between them and Django, which will probably be moot anyways, because Usopp, the poor guy, he really hasn't had a fight like this ever. Like, this is his first foray into a real fight. The other three have done their time, but this is Usopp's first shot at being a hero. And he's trying, but he's not good enough yet.
You then have the peon guys going, "Hey, maybe we could fight," and Luffy just puts a rock between him and between them and the action, going, "No, stay there." And then he punches Kuro, who moves incredibly fast. Something I wanted to bring up. Why didn't Kuro just grab Luffy's arm and just cut it off right there?
Because Luffy is the main character, and Shonen Jump wouldn't have allowed it. And 4Kids definitely would have been like, "Oh no, we're skipping that scene."
But he uses two attacks. Not sure if he's used one of them before, but he shows them off.
The first one, I'm sure he
Gum Gum Spear and Gum Gum Whip, both of which use his feet. And this goes to show you that it's not just, I can punch people. It's every aspect of him is rubber, and he will utilize that to his advantage.
Like, his ears can, extend out. His face can, pull, he can, reach into his, mouth, and like stretch like his mouth wide and wider in hopes to devour more food more quickly.
Which honestly makes a lot of sense. If he's stretching, that burns a lot of calories.
Mm-hmm.
So it would explain. So it actually makes sense why he would have to eat all that food. But
He's always so skinny. Yeah.
I will say that they explain his train of logic in a backstory that Kuro has. Like, he basically tells Usopp, this is all according to a plan. I have calculated this far out than you would even know.
Like,
I
was planning this for years
I knew that
before
you would fight against me. I knew that you would bring these guys with you because they're new elements and they trust you. Also, that rubber guy over there, he's not dead yet. So clearly he was going to help out on this. And that was going to be a problem. But I firmly believed that you guys would not have been able to delay my men enough. That was not according to my plan. But it's a good thing I know how to fight. And they basically show, like, so what is his actual train of logic here? And it goes to his backstory.
He was back up
in
when
which
he was still a pirate.
He was being bombarded by an enemy ship. His ship could not move, like, out of the way. And it's like, well, we're taking on water. We have to do something. And then it's like, and then Kuro's like, okay, I'm gonna get into my small little rowboat, row over to their ship, take all of them out. And he
doesn't say that at first, but it's what he does, because it's implied that he was going to go give himself up to the Marines, but then he
came up with a better idea.
I don't think he could do it. I think he went to the ship with the implied thought that this was going to be it. He was going to turn himself in and it was going to be it, and he just couldn't do it. Just couldn't stop fighting.
So then he goes over to a Marine, one of the last ones that are still on the ship. Oh, look, it's Morgan.
Oh, which explains a lot about Morgan.
He got his jaw crushed by Kuro, and he got his arm cut off in the same battle. So it makes a lot of sense for, like, why he had that sort of look to him.
And also, because, as we find out, what Django did, because Django was his first officer at the time, and what Django did is that they took the guy on the crew. He was implied to be some new
new guy
fighter.
that just happened to look the closest to Kuro that they could.
And they dressed him up as Kuro. Like, because he had this huge, like, cape. They put the cape on him, you were saying?
Yeah, they hypnotized this low-level crew member into firmly believing that he is Kuro, and he had killed all these Marines. You then have Morgan, who is severely injured but is able to make it back to shore, who, with the rest of the crew members that apparently hadn't died yet, maybe. But they hypnotized Kuro into admitting what he did.
Or the new Kuro.
The new guy who pretends to be Kuro.
And
he might even be Calidor, the name that he gets. Like, he probably just switched names with him.
Mm-hmm. And that's the guy in the flashback we see being killed in Shellstown. We have to tell Morgan actually got his promotion. Morgan's a fraud.
Yeah, but he doesn't know that he's a fraud.
Yeah.
But it does kind of explain a few things, you know?
With hypnosis, but I'm talking about, like, real world hypnosis, which has been shown to work on people. It doesn't work on me.
Work on some people.
It doesn't work on me, but people remember what they did when they were hypnotized. I think Morgan knew. In his heart of hearts, maybe he couldn't consciously access it, because Django's got some really weird hypnosis. That I think Morgan knew in his heart of hearts he hadn't earned it, so he was acting more self-important to make himself feel like he had earned it. This was his victory. This was his time. But I'm just going on and on about things that may or may not be true in accordance with the lore of the series.
Going back to what's actually going on, Luffy grabs a rock and Kuro gets his sword stuck in the rock and he snaps all of them off. So now he's without one of his gloves. So he already cut his attack power in half. And so it was like, okay, that's where it's gonna end. Okay, that's episode 15. I want you to talk about what you feel about this episode before I go into what
What do you think?
CB's opinion was.
Okay. I thought these episodes were good. The beginning of the arc really dragged for me. And I remember saying this last episode we did, that this, where we started here, I watched 5 episodes in, and I dropped one piece.
And I've watched
as an anime.
To reiterate, I've watched the 4Kids dub all the way up until Chopper showed up. Like, I did not get to the part where Chopper showed up.
Great string episode.
I have a distinct memory for the series, but only the things that were in the 4Kids version. And the problem with that is that 4Kids likes to remove stuff,
the best stuff from it.
And so a lot of the episodes of this were brand new to me, and it was great. But it does kind of feel like that that at some times though that the episodes really did drag on. You were saying?
Because I think it's mostly an issue about how anime was back then and how people's attention spans were back then. I'm used to anime, like, if we're going to compare One Piece to Boku no Hero, which is really unfair for both series. Because they're both good for different reasons, but they're drastically different series, despite both being shonen and both running in Shonen Jump right now. The pacing of Boku no Hero is snappy. It's really seamless. 90% of the time. At least in this part of One Piece, and it's going to be way different. Like, as soon as we get into some of the later episodes, I think the pacing is really going to start picking up. But as it is now, the pacing at the beginning of this arc kind of dragged. But once we got to Usopp telling the kids he'd lied, that's when the pacing started to improve for me. I think this was a really good series, and I'm going to be breaking hearts, and I'm going to be making people angry. This series was a
series of episodes.
This batch of episodes was a mid to a high silver.
And I thought it was a little bit over the line. I thought it was just barely a gold. Because I wanted to show that this is basically a baseline for what gold is. Like, they're good episodes, but they're good enough in such a way that you could ignore the faults of them and just absorb the story and be like, that was pretty cool. I can get with that. I will say, though, that if there are other gold episodes, they're definitely going to be better than this. Oh, yeah. This is literally the line between the two.
Even, talking about a character you just brought up, Chopper. Once we get into Chopper, there's going to be a lot of golds in that arc. Just from my standpoint. But it's really good that you had your baseline gold. I have not found my baseline gold yet. It's probably going to be coming up here soon. But,
I have an episode in the East Blue that is a borderline platinum, but I'm not going to give it to it strictly because I do not feel like it's not because it's not good enough, because it is, but there are better moments later on that need that space, and so it's basically showing
and even knowing
anything
that
better than
hindsight,
this is worthy of being platinum.
And it's always going to have your baseline. I have my baseline silver. I do not have yet my baseline gold. I know where it is though. And we're going to be getting to it. Which is why I really like having more than one person, because we get to disagree. Because this show would be really boring if we both said at the same time, this show was awesome for the exact same reasons. And it would be super boring. And what's the point of doing the show if we all agree at the same time?
Yeah, I guess. CB wanted to make a point that Usopp is his favorite character in the entire series, or one of them.
And we'll be
And
talking
one
more
of the
about
things
Usopp in the next one.
that he wanted to mention was that it's around this point that he really started to like the series. Like, he didn't become a fan until 2 arcs from now, with all that. But one of the things he adamantly wanted to say, though, was that when it comes to these episodes, they're really good, and it shows Oda's ability to make you feel for a character, whether there was a bad guy, where it's a good guy. They make you understand who they are, and so you understand.
Oda is really good at getting into the minds of characters, not just the heroes and not just the big bad of the series, but there will be a point in which the most supposedly throwaway character, like you would, like, because you see a lineup of all of this guy's crew, his main, like, captains under his employ, and you say, that guy is the dumbest design I've ever seen in my life. There's no way that there's any kind of sensible reason why he's wearing what he does. He's a grown man, for crying out loud. And then you see it. And that's a pretty good reason. It's like, wear what you want, man. I can't stop you. I won't judge. You have to stop what you're physically doing, though, because you're on the wrong side. You're not on Luffy's side. But I can't judge your outfit anymore. And it's like that kind of writing, which really begins here, I think. Like, this is where we're going to get to see Oda begin to stretch his ability to write.
Yeah, and it's from this point on that a lot of people say that his writing starts getting really good. People will say that the first arc in which he is at his best is a few from now, but he definitely gains the reason for why people follow him by the time they leave the East Blue. And when that happens, he's fully realized who he is as an author, what he can do as an author, and what his strengths are.
And he keeps trying to push it. He keeps trying to do new things, which is something I really appreciate also as an author, because, well, we'll talk more about Usopp in the next one once he actually formally joins the crew and sets sail with Luffy and the new Straw Hats. But I love the dynamic of characters like Usopp because they're live cowards. People are people. And I think Usopp really illustrates why people do the things they do sometimes.
Sorry, close that window. I needed to find the quote again. I can't remember where this quote is from, but this is what perfectly describes Usopp. And it's, to quote, bravery is about doing what must be done even if you're scared to do so. And those sort of things really show that even though Usopp, and it's shown later, even though he's a coward, he's a brave coward. And those are the types of people that do.
I think they're very dangerous people.
Yeah, they're random. They can't really be planned around, which is why
because you never know. And
Kuro is a good foil to
in
Usopp because
soon.
Everything Usopp does is off the cuff. He can I was like, he's really creative about putting traps. He's really creative about like his abilities and what he does. Even as someone who has no powers and literally all he does is use a slingshot, he is the type of person.
He gets really scary with his slingshots and the future.
Oda once said that his guns are simple. A slingshot could have anything in it.
As we'll see, because I think if Usopp could see the character he is currently, because actually, where we are right now, we just hit chapter 900 in the manga. So congratulations to Oda. I just wanted to get that across. 900. I know, right?
Yeah, I can't wait for
900 chapters of an ongoing series where the cast has not changed. Like, Do you like? There have been manga
There
that
have
have
been-
reached it
There
before,
have been
and I will.
there
And
have
I will
been
admit-
characters brought into the crew. There's been deaths of their friends, of their family members, in which they were like, okay,
There's
we've got to
been-
go through this. We've
There's
got to.
technically been death of a crewman,
Not really.
a crew member. How could you not count?
Technically, he's not a crew member.
We're gonna have to talk. We're
Either.
done. I don't think we're talking about the same thing.
Yeah, we're done either way.
Yeah. So, but we just wanted to end with really a congratulations to Ichirio Oda. I know I butchered that horrendously with both my stammer and my way of speaking. Ichirio Oda, congratulations, man, because you've reached 900 in an ongoing series for 20 years with the same main character and the same general cast of characters.
Only restyling it only a little bit.
Uh-huh.
Some characters a lot more than others.
I don't know what you're talking about. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Either way, we're done.
Okay. Well, have a nice week. This is IJ,
AG, CB's still not here.
and we're signing out, and we hope that you come back and see the next one.